Hey there, Business Central users, it's Ben, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to import banking data from an Excel or CSV file directly into Business Central. Now, you may be saying, Ben, why would I need to import a banking file when I can simply link my bank feed in Business Central directly to my bank? Unfortunately, we've seen that it's not always that easy. If it is, and all your bank accounts natively link, then that's just a bonus, and you probably don't need to stick around for the remainder of this video. However, if you fall into one of the two categories below, please stick around. Number one, your bank account doesn't link via the out-of-box Business Central account linking. Or number two, you have multiple cardholders on an account and the import is only bringing in the main user's activity. There may be, of course, other use cases out there, but the good news is what I'm about to show you will apply to any of the use cases regarding importing bank data. So the first thing that we need to do is obviously have your bank account card created. If it's not already created, you can go ahead and click New and create a new bank account. Once it's created, you'll see that it's not linked by default. For today's example, I will be using this bank account, number 1234. So let's go ahead and click into it to get started. Again, you'll notice that it's not linked. Once you're in this account, you'll want to come down to this transfer section. It has a field called bank statement import format, which we see is blank right now. This is where we're going to start to create our import setup and link our data exchange definition. Now, if you click this drop down here, you'll be able to see that we have two existing imports already there. Let's say you have multiple accounts for Chase Bank that all have the same export fields and formats. In that case, you could create this once and use it for all other Chase Bank accounts. For the sake of this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and click New. The really nice thing about these imports is that there is a wizard available if you click the ellipsis or the ... right here. Then click Actions and then click Bank Statement File Format Wizard. The first thing we do here is click Next. If you need a sample file, you can click here to export it. However, I already have a file from my bank in the correct format that I'd like to use, so I'm going to go ahead here and click Next. The next thing that you'll want to do is upload a bank statement file, which again is this file that I have right here. Now, with this file showing on my screen, it does have a handful of columns. It has the cardholder number, which we can see there are multiple of here. So that would be an example of the second use case where the bank has multiple cardholders and the import's only pulling in one. We have two date fields here that we'll talk about here in a second. And we also have a description, a category, a type, and an amount field. So a lot of data to choose from. Now, we're not going to necessarily bring all of this data in, nor are we going to look at all these fields, which we'll look at next. However, it is important to note that they're all available, as we'll see next. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and say upload a bank statement file and select the file you want to use as your template. I'm going to select this Chase 3088 activity file, and then I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Now, here you'll see the header lines to skip. So I'm just saying here that I have one header line and I want to ignore that since we'll be skipping that. We don't want to bring that in as data, right? So that's what this is saying here. Again, we'll want to skip that. And if you look at the file preview, we'll see all of those fields now being pulled in here, separated by a comma because we've been using a CSV for this example. And again, at this point, I'm good to go and I can click Next. The next piece we see here is our column separator. Since this is a CSV, as I previously mentioned, we will pick comma as the option. Next is the column count. This is just saying that we have 8 columns here in our data set. So again, let's compare that to our file and we can see that that all lines up here. All right. Finally, we have our line separator, which for now you can leave as CRLF. We'll revisit that later, but should not need any further changes. All right, at this point, we are good to go and I can click Next. Okay, now this right here is the most important piece of the mapping exercise. It is asking us what columns we want to pull data from, specifically for the date, the amount, and the description. The date, as we remember, we had 2 columns in our data set. we had column 3, which was the posting date, and column 2, which was the transaction date. So in this case, I want to use the posting date, column 3, as the data set that I'm going to be pulling from. The amount, we just had 1, which was column 7, so we're going to pull that in. And the description, we had column 4, so we're going to define that here as well. Again, if you had a different description, maybe a memo or something like that, you could call out a different column here. This is just what Business Central has recognized by default. So again, this will be different for each of you watching, so just make sure that those columns line up with the correct data before clicking next here. For me, this looks good to go, and I'm going to go ahead and click next. All right, we will come back to this later, but for now we can see the date format says capital M/DD/YYYY as we see here. This is just saying that my date format will be month followed by day followed by year. We're going to get an error moving forward that I'm going to do on purpose, but we'll revisit this as to how to better configure this in the actual data exchange definition itself, since there's not the ability to change this from a fixed file to a variable file at this moment. Next, we have the decimal separator. Mine is a period, or as they call it here, a dot. If you're outside of North America, you may be using a comma. Again, just select the appropriate format. And then as you can see here, we have that file ready to preview below. All right, now let's go ahead and click next. And at this point, we're ready to go with the setup. The final step here will be to link the import back to the bank account we need it for. In this case, let's link it back to bank account 1234 that we started with. All right, now at this point, you can go ahead and click finish, and then you can click OK, and we should be good to go. All right, we can now see that Chase 3088 is set up in the bank statement import format, which means that we are now ready to test importing some data into Business Central. For this next piece, let's search for Payment Reconciliation Journal and select it right here. All right, this is going to bring us into our payment reconciliation journal. And the next thing we'll need to do is come up to the top here and click Import Bank Transactions. Now, if you had multiple bank accounts linked either via the data exchange definitions like we just did or direct online linking, it would actually ask us what bank we want to pull in from. Since I only have one account set up, we're just going to use the import file that's selected. So it's not prompting me for any banks. It's just saying upload a file right here. Since it knows to ask me for that file, I can either go ahead and click here to select my file, or I can do a drag and drop. So I'm going to click and let's choose Chase 3088 file for the import, my CSV. All right, here we go. And like I mentioned before, we have now received an error message. Again, I did this intentionally to call out a very specific nuance to the wizard, which is that it'll bring our file in as a fixed versus variable text format. What do I mean by that? Let's go take a look back at our setup. So we're going to navigate to our bank account card, click the drop down, and click Show Details. This is showing our import format, and we will need to go a layer deeper into the data exchange definition itself. All right, click the drop down, click Show Details again here. Now, this is the first time we're actually seeing behind the scenes into this data exchange definition. Here we see that fixed text setting, as I mentioned, which is exactly why the original file failed. Let's change that now to variable text. Additionally, if we come down below, let's also change the date format to capital M / lowercase d / lowercase YYYY. Please note that the capitalization of the M as well as the lowercase of the d and the YYYY are important here. The reason for this error originally was because the fixed text was asking for a specific amount of characters. We all know that some months have 1 digit and some have 2. Similar to days, we could have the 1st of the month or the 15th. Under a fixed setting, the import file is not flexible enough. However, with these minor changes, we now have ultimate flexibility around our date field. All right, now we should be good to go. So let's jump back into that payment reconciliation journal that we were just in moments ago and finish this tutorial out. Now in our payment reconciliation journal, we're going to go about it the same way we did before. Select import banking transactions. All right, let's upload or drag and drop your file. In this case, our 3088 file. And look at that, we have some magic happening as we have all of our banking activity from the file now loaded into Business Central. You'll also notice that a few of these transactions have already been automatically tagged to various expense accounts. In an upcoming video, I'll show you the in and outs of these payment reconciliation journals, how you can automatically bring these automated mappings in, and additional tips and tricks for these payment reconciliation journals. But for the sake of keeping this video short and sweet, we will conclude it here. At this point, we have now successfully brought in banking data from a CSV file thanks to the bank import and associated data exchange definitions. Even though this wouldn't allow us to import automatically from that online portal, we have now gone through the workaround fully end to end. Thanks again for sticking with us, and I really hope that everyone enjoyed this video. For real-time updates on any of our future content, please remember to subscribe to our channel. Additionally, if you have any other questions, do not hesitate to reach out or leave a comment and I will respond to you directly. Thanks again, and I hope that everybody has a great day.